Look up at the sun right now. That warm glow on your face. That light filling the sky. That energy powering every living thing on Earth. It is already gone. The sun you see does not exist anymore. Not in the way you think. By the time its light reaches your eyes, the sun has already changed, and what I am about to tell you will make you question everything you thought you knew about time, light, and reality itself. Today I want to explain why the sun you see is a lie, a beautiful lie, a necessary lie, but a lie nonetheless. The light touching your skin right now left the sun 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. In those 8 minutes, the sun has moved. It has changed. Millions of tons of hydrogen have fused into helium. Solar flares may have erupted. The sun you observe is the sun as it was in the past, not the sun as it is now. But this is just the beginning. The deeper truth is far more disturbing. Light itself is a kind of time travel. And when you understand how light works, when you understand what is really happening between the sun and your eyes, you realize that everything you see is a ghost. Everything you experience is delayed. You do not live in the present. You live in the past. Let me take you on a journey through the physics of light, the nature of time, and the strange reality of our sun. By the end of this, you will never look at the sky the same way again. Light takes time to travel. This seems obvious, but most people do not truly understand what this means. When you look at the sun, you are not seeing where it is now. You are seeing where it was 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. The sun could have exploded 7 minutes ago and you would not know it yet. You would still see it shining peacefully in the sky. You would still feel its warmth. And then, 1 minute and 20 seconds later, the light would stop. The warmth would fade. And you would finally know that the sun is gone. This delay exists for everything you see. When you look at the moon, you see it as it was 1.3 seconds ago. When you look at the nearest star after the sun, Proxima Centauri, you see it as it was 4.2 years ago. When you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, you see it as it was 2.5 million years ago. When you look at the most distant galaxies through our telescopes, you see them as they were 13 billion years ago, shortly after the Big Bang. The universe is a museum of the past. Every photon that enters your eye is a messenger from history. You are not observing reality as it is. You are observing reality as it was. Now here is where it gets strange. The speed of light is finite. Nothing can travel faster than light. This is one of the fundamental principles of physics, established by Albert Einstein. Light travels at exactly 299,792,458 meters per second in a vacuum. This speed is absolute. It does not change based on how fast you are moving. It does not change based on the source of the light. It is constant. And because light has a finite speed, there is always a delay between an event happening and you observing that event. This delay creates a gap between reality and perception. The sun you see is not the sun that exists. It is an 8-minute-old image of the sun. A photograph from the past projected onto your retina. But let me go deeper, much deeper, because the real question is not just about the light you see. The real question is about the light itself. Where does it come from? How is it created? And what does that tell us about the sun? The sun is a massive ball of hydrogen. At its core, the temperature is 15 million degrees Celsius. The pressure is immense. Under these extreme conditions, hydrogen atoms are forced together. They overcome the electromagnetic force that normally keeps them apart. They fuse into helium. This process is called nuclear fusion. Every second, the sun converts 620 million tons of hydrogen into helium. In this process, about 4 million tons of matter are converted into pure energy. This is described by Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. A tiny amount of mass produces an enormous amount of energy. That energy is released as photons, particles of light. But here is the truly mind-bending part. Those photons do not immediately escape the sun. They cannot. The sun is too dense. The core is packed with matter. Every photon that is created immediately collides with an atom. It is absorbed, then re-emitted in a random direction, then absorbed again, then re-emitted again. This process repeats billions upon billions of times. Each photon bounces around inside the sun like a pinball. It moves a tiny distance. then gets absorbed, then re-emitted, over and over and over. Scientists estimate that it takes between 10,000 and 100,000 years for a photon created in the core of the sun to finally reach the surface. Let that sink in. The light you see today, the light warming your face right now, was created deep inside the sun tens of thousands of years ago. When that photon was born, humans were still living in caves. We had not yet invented agriculture. We had not built cities. We had not discovered fire in some cases. That photon spent millennia trapped inside the sun, bouncing, scattering, struggling to escape, and finally, after all that time, it reached the surface. It broke free. It traveled through the vacuum of space for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, and then it entered your eye. So when I say the sun you see is already dead, I mean it in multiple ways. First, the sun you observe is 8 minutes in the past. Second, the light itself is tens of thousands of years old. It is a fossil, a relic from an ancient time. The sun has changed dramatically since that photon was created. The sun you see is not just delayed, it is ancient. But there is another layer to this, another way in which the sun you see does not truly exist, and it has to do with simultaneity, or rather, the lack of it. In Einstein's theory of relativity, there is no such thing as absolute simultaneity. Two events that appear simultaneous to one observer may not be simultaneous to another observer moving at a different speed. Time is not universal. It is relative. It depends on your frame of reference. This has profound implications for how we think about the sun. When you ask what the sun is doing right now, at this very moment, the question does not have a single answer. There is no universal now. The concept of now is an illusion created by our limited perception. From your perspective on Earth, the sun is doing something specific right now, but from the perspective of someone moving at high speed relative to Earth, the sun might be doing something entirely different at this same moment. There is no objective present tense. There is only your subjective experience of time. This means that the sun you see is not just a delayed image. It is one possible interpretation of reality based on your specific location and velocity. Someone else, somewhere else, moving at a different speed, would see a different sun, not because light takes time to travel, though that is part of it, but because time itself is not absolute. Reality is not a single objective truth. It is a collection of perspectives, and the sun exists differently for each observer. Now, let me tell you about something even stranger. The sun is constantly changing. Every second it is different. Nuclear reactions in the core are chaotic. Plasma currents churn and twist. Magnetic fields shift. Solar flares erupt. Coronal mass ejections blast particles into space. The surface of the sun is a roiling, turbulent inferno, but you do not see any of this in real time. You see it 8 minutes later, and even then you only see the visible light. You do not see the X-rays. You do not see the gamma rays. You do not see the neutrinos streaming out from the core at nearly the speed of light. Neutrinos are fascinating. They are subatomic particles produced in nuclear fusion. Unlike photons, neutrinos barely interact with matter. They pass through the sun almost unimpeded. A neutrino created in the core of the sun reaches the surface in just 2 seconds. Then it travels to Earth in 8 minutes. So neutrinos arrive at Earth 8 minutes and 2 seconds after they are created. Photons, on the other hand, take tens of thousands of years to escape the sun, then 8 minutes to reach Earth. This means that neutrinos from the sun give us information about what is happening in the core right now, while photons give us information about what was happening tens of thousands of years ago. Scientists use neutrino detectors to study the sun's core in near real time. But most people only see the light, the ancient light, the light that is already dead. There is another sense in which the sun you see is dead. The sun is dying, slowly, inevitably, and it has been dying since it was born. The sun formed 4.6 billion years ago from a cloud of gas and dust. Gravity pulled the material together. The core heated up, nuclear fusion ignited, the sun began to shine. But this process cannot last forever. The sun has a finite amount of hydrogen fuel, and it is burning through that fuel at a rate of 620 million tons per second. In about 5 billion years, the sun will run out of hydrogen in its core. When that happens, the core will contract, the outer layers will expand, the sun will become a red giant. It will swell up and engulf the inner planets. Mercury will be consumed. Venus will be consumed. Earth will likely be consumed as well, or at the very least, it will be scorched into a lifeless cinder. Eventually, the sun will shed its outer layers. They will form a planetary nebula. The core will collapse into a white dwarf, a dense Earth-sized remnant that will slowly cool over trillions of years until it becomes a black dwarf, a cold, dark, dead sphere of carbon and oxygen floating through the void. The sun is already on this path. It is already dying. Every second it loses mass. Every second it burns fuel. Every second it moves closer to its end. The sun you see is not eternal. It is temporary. It is mortal. It is already in the process of dying. And because the light you see is so old, because it was created tens of thousands of years ago, you are seeing a younger version of the sun. A version that had slightly more fuel, a version that was slightly less evolved. The sun you see is not just delayed in time. It is younger than the sun that exists now. In a very real sense, when you look at the sun, you are looking into the past. You are seeing a star that no longer exists in that exact form. It has aged, it has changed, it has moved closer to death. The sun you see is a ghost. Let me take you even deeper into this mystery. There is something called the solar convection zone. This is the outer layer of the sun where heat is transported not by radiation but by convection. Hot plasma rises to the surface, cools, and sinks back down. This creates massive circulation patterns, currents of superheated gas flowing up and down. These convection currents cause the surface of the sun to bubble and churn. If you could see the sun in high resolution, you would see granules, cell-like structures covering the entire surface. Each granule is about 1,000 kilometers across. That is roughly the size of Texas and California combined. And these granules are constantly forming and dissolving. They last for only about 8 to 20 minutes. By the time the light from one of these granules reaches Earth, that granule no longer exists. It has already broken apart and been replaced by new granules. You are seeing surface features that are gone, erased, replaced by entirely new structures. This is true for everything on the sun. Solar flares last for minutes or hours. Sunspots last for days or weeks. Coronal loops form and collapse. Everything you observe is history. Nothing you see is current. And this raises a philosophical question. If you can never observe the present state of the sun, does that present state even exist for you? If there is no way to access information about the sun as it is right now, in what sense can you say that version of the sun is real? Physics tells us that information cannot travel faster than light. This means there is a fundamental limit to how quickly you can know about distant events. The sun could be doing something extraordinary right now, and you would have no way of knowing for another 8 minutes. During those 8 minutes, that information does not exist for you. It is not part of your observable universe. In relativity, we talk about light cones. The past light cone contains all events that could have influenced you. The future light cone contains all events that you could potentially influence. Everything outside your light cone is causally disconnected from you. It cannot affect you, and you cannot affect it. The sun, as it exists right now, is outside your past light cone. It is causally disconnected from your present moment. For you, right now, that version of the sun does not exist. Only the 8-minute-old version exists. That is the only version you can interact with. That is the only version that is real for you. This is not just a quirk of perception. This is a fundamental feature of reality. The universe does not have a single objective state that exists everywhere simultaneously. Instead, it has different states for different observers depending on their position and motion. Now let me tell you about something that makes this even stranger. The sun is moving. It is orbiting the center of the Milky Way galaxy at a speed of about 220 kilometers per second. In the 8 minutes it takes for light to reach Earth, the sun has moved about 105 million kilometers through space. So the sun you see is not where the sun is now, it is where the sun was 8 minutes ago. If you wanted to point directly at the sun's current position, you would have to aim ahead of where you see it. You would have to calculate its motion and predict where it has moved to. But here is the problem. You cannot know exactly where the sun is right now because information about its current position has not reached you yet. You can only estimate based on its past trajectory, and that estimate might be wrong. The sun could have been hit by a massive asteroid. It could have experienced an unusual solar event. Its motion could have changed slightly. You are always working with outdated information. You are always guessing about the present based on the past. The present is fundamentally unknowable. This applies to everything in the universe. When you look at another person across the room, you see them as they were a few billionths of a second ago. When you look at a mountain 10 kilometers away, you see it as it was 30 microseconds ago. When you look at the stars, you see them as they were years or centuries or millennia ago. You exist in a bubble of delayed information. Everything you perceive is a reconstruction of the past. Your brain takes these delayed signals and creates the illusion of a coherent present moment. But that present moment is not real. It is a construct, a useful fiction that allows you to navigate reality. The sun is the perfect example of this. It is close enough that the delay is noticeable. 8 minutes is significant, but it is far enough that you cannot directly verify what is happening right now. You are forced to accept that what you see is not what is. But wait, there is more. The light from the sun does not just travel through empty space, it travels through the solar wind. It travels through Earth's atmosphere, and both of these affect the light. The solar wind is a stream of charged particles constantly flowing out from the sun, mostly electrons and protons. These particles interact with light. They scatter it. They bend it slightly. This effect is small but measurable. Then the light enters Earth's atmosphere. Air molecules scatter blue light more than red light. This is why the sky is blue. This is why sunsets are red. The atmosphere filters and distorts the light from the sun. By the time sunlight reaches your eyes, it has been transformed. The photons have interacted with countless particles. They have been scattered, absorbed, and re-emitted. The light you see is not the same light that left the sun. It is a modified version, a corrupted signal. So not only are you seeing the sun as it was in the past, you are seeing a distorted version of that past. The sun you observe is twice removed from reality, once by time delay, once by atmospheric interference, and your eyes only detect a narrow range of wavelengths, visible light. The sun emits radiation across the entire electromagnetic spectrum, radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. You see only a tiny fraction of what the sun produces. If you could see in ultraviolet, the sun would look different. Hotter regions would glow brighter. Cooler regions would appear darker. If you could see in X-rays, you would see solar flares and coronal loops invisible to the naked eye. The sun you see is not the complete sun. It is a filtered, limited, delayed, distorted representation. It is a shadow of the real thing. Let me tell you about solar flares. These are massive explosions on the surface of the sun. They release as much energy as billions of nuclear bombs. They blast radiation and particles into space at nearly the speed of light. When a solar flare occurs, the X-rays and gamma rays reach Earth in 8 minutes, but the visible light from the flare also takes 8 minutes. So you see the flare at the same time you are hit by the radiation. There is no warning. By the time you observe the flare, it is already affecting you. If a truly massive solar flare occurred, it could damage satellites, it could disrupt power grids, it could interfere with communications, and you would have no advance notice. The first sign would be the light itself arriving. This is another way in which the sun you see is dangerous. It is not just a passive image. It carries information about events that are simultaneously affecting you. The delay between cause and effect is zero from your perspective because both travel at the speed of light. Now let me tell you the most unsettling part. The sun is not special. Everything you see works the same way. Every star, every galaxy, every object in the universe. You live in a world of ghosts, a world of echoes and shadows. When you look at another person, you see them as they were a few nanoseconds ago. This delay is so small it does not matter in practical terms, but it is there, and for distant objects it becomes significant. The Andromeda Galaxy is 2.5 million light-years away. When you look at it, you see it as it was 2.5 million years ago. Humans did not even exist yet. Our ancestors were still primitive hominids in Africa. The Andromeda you see is from a time before our species evolved. That galaxy has moved since then. Stars have been born and died. The supermassive black hole at its center has consumed matter. The entire structure has rotated. The Andromeda you see no longer exists in that form. And Andromeda is relatively close. Most galaxies are billions of light years away. When we observe the distant universe through telescopes, we are looking back in time. We are seeing galaxies as they were shortly after the Big Bang. Those galaxies may not even exist anymore. They may have merged with other galaxies. They may have been torn apart by gravitational interactions. The universe we observe is a patchwork of different times. Nearby objects are recent. Distant objects are ancient. There is no single moment that you can call now for the entire universe. The present is an illusion. This has profound implications for cosmology. When scientists study the early universe, they are not studying something that happened long ago and is now gone. They are studying something that is still visible because its light is still reaching us. The Big Bang is not in the past, it is in the distance, and distance equals time. The edge of the observable universe is the cosmic horizon. Beyond that horizon, light has not had time to reach us yet. There could be galaxies out there, stars, planets, even civilizations, but we cannot see them. Their light has not arrived. They do not exist in our observable universe. And because the universe is expanding, some of those distant galaxies are moving away from us faster than the speed of light, not through space, but because space itself is expanding. This means their light will never reach us. They are forever beyond our horizon. They exist, but we can never observe them. They are real but invisible. The sun is a microcosm of this larger truth. Just as the distant universe is hidden by light travel time, the current state of the sun is hidden by the same principle. You cannot see the present. You can only see the past. So what does this mean for your understanding of reality? It means that everything you experience is delayed. Everything you know is outdated. You are constantly living in the past, trying to navigate a present that you cannot directly observe. Your brain compensates for this. It predicts. It extrapolates. It assumes that the world is mostly continuous and predictable. When you catch a ball, your brain is not reacting to where the ball is. It is predicting where the ball will be based on where it was a fraction of a second ago. This works well for everyday life, but it is still a guess. A well-informed guess based on past data, but a guess nonetheless. You never truly know the present. You only know the past, and you predict the future based on that past. The sun teaches us this lesson on a grand scale. It is a constant reminder that perception and reality are not the same thing, that time is not what it seems, that the universe is stranger and more complex than our intuitions suggest. Every morning when the sun rises, you are seeing a star that has already changed. Every photon that touches your skin is a messenger from the past. The warmth you feel left the sun 8 minutes ago. The light you see was created tens of thousands of years ago. The sun you see is already dead, not in the sense that the sun has stopped existing, but in the sense that the version you observe no longer exists in that exact form. It has moved on. It has changed. It has aged. And one day, billions of years from now, the sun will truly die. It will exhaust its fuel. It will expand into a red giant and then collapse into a white dwarf, and eventually that white dwarf will cool and fade into darkness. But even then, its light will continue to travel. Photons emitted in the sun's final moments will race through space for billions of years. Long after the sun is gone, its light will still be reaching distant parts of the universe. Civilizations billions of light years away will look up at their sky and see our sun shining. They will see it as it was in its prime. They will have no idea it has died. The sun will live on as light, as information traveling through the cosmos, a ghost haunting the universe long after the source has vanished. This is the nature of light. This is the nature of time. This is the nature of reality. Everything you see is a memory. Everything you experience is an echo. The present is always just out of reach. So here is my question for you. If everything you perceive is the past, if the present is fundamentally unknowable, how does that change the way you think about your life? Does it make the present moment more precious because you cannot truly grasp it? Or does it make you realize that the past is always with you, always shaping what you see? Leave your answer in the comments. I want to know what you think. The sun you see is already dead, but it is still beautiful. It still gives life. It still inspires wonder. The fact that it is a ghost does not make it less real. It makes it more mysterious, more profound. Every time you feel sunlight on your skin, remember that you are touching the past. You are feeling light that began its journey before you were born. You are connected to the sun across time and space through the simple act of seeing. We are all living in the past. We are all observing ghosts, and yet we build our lives on these observations. We trust what we see even though we know it is delayed. We navigate reality even though we know we can never truly know the present. This is the human condition. This is the nature of consciousness in a universe governed by the speed of light. We are always one step behind reality, always chasing a present that slips away the moment we try to grasp it. But that is not a reason for despair. That is a reason for wonder. The universe is more strange, more subtle, more beautiful than we ever imagined, and we are privileged to be able to study it, to understand it, to marvel at it. The sun you see is already dead, but you are alive, right now, in this moment, even if that moment is already slipping into the past, even if what you see is a delayed image of reality, you are here, you are conscious, you are experiencing the universe, and that is extraordinary. Thank you for watching. I reminding you that the light you see today carries messages from yesterday, and the present is always just beyond your reach.